What does it mean to be a world champion? To some, it's the culmination of a life's effort. To others, it's the beginning of an incredible journey. To some people, it's Tuesday. I can't really tell you for a fact what it means because it's never happened to me. But I can tell you what it means to try. I've never been a big one for competition. Don't get me wrong, I love winning, but when there's actual stakes on the line, I can't always handle the pressure. I have thousands of hours in unranked League of Legends to prove it. I got into 7 Highlander as a combined creative and competitive outlet, specifically to have something to put on this channel. It turned out to be a great choice. The community is awesome, and it's big enough to have events worth travelling to, but small enough that I could rock up at my first ever weekly and sit down next to the back-to-back national champion, who's a great bloke, by the way. I've been playing Magic ever since I got my first standard precon back in 2014. I've been drafting regularly since 2022, and I spent more time in high school reading articles on Channel Fireball and Star City Games than actually reading my notes. I can say without a doubt that I've never got as much better at the game as I have since March of 2025, when I first sat down and went 1-3 with the Mardu Pyromancer pile. Getting into a proper competitive environment took some adjustment. I had to learn the meta, what it was and how to fight it. I couldn't just rock up with a cool idea that I'd put to paper. I had to be prepared for strong decks and stronger players. As long as I was playing in this space, I had to improve. There's just no other outcome. That's not to say that there's no room for bruise or expression in deck building. I've seen some pretty heinous piles do much better than they deserve. But I learned to appreciate the skill behind a 300 card Battle of Wits win, or an aggro plan with Retraction Helix and Jeskai Ascendancy. I wanted that skill. And ultimately, there's only one real way to develop and express that skill: competition. 2 weeks ago, MtG Bazaar hosted the 7 Highlander World Championship in Melbourne. I knew I wanted to go, and I wanted to try and do well. Now, I could have tried a bit harder. I didn't do any focus testing or develop a sideboard matchup guide, but I did find a deck, focus on experimenting with different options, and settled on a list that I thought was extremely strong and that I knew I could play. Here's what happened. It is 7 a.m. and I'm waiting for the Uber. Alright, so I'm the first one here. Gonna get myself set up and then see what the future holds. It's probably a nap now that I think about it. So like 4 hours. Oh, actually, get this as well. I brought the wrong Beseju. So I was looking for a team to play on Sunday, and I met some blokes, and they also wanted to play Blue Moon, and I'm like, well, we can't all play Blue Moon, so I'll play Flash because that doesn't have any overlaps with any good decks. And so I just grabbed a list from before the Winter Lotus last year, and I made some changes, but I wound up bringing the good Beseju, the one that blows things up, and the deck list calls for old Beseju, the one that stops my spells from being countered. I think it's probably for the best. Part of the reason that I was okay to say, oh, I'll play Flash, was because only one of them can have Force of Will and Mental Misstep. So I think I'm going to get away without it. But it was very funny that it's like, oh no, I brought the good one.
because it was also in Breach Bond, which I was thinking about playing, but it's so stupid, man. I just need to find a cut for this, I guess. There's a whole bunch of nonsense I'm never going to play here. Uh-oh. Okay, so it looks like it might be time for me to go and lay in some provisions before the rest of the gang gets here. And by the looks, the nearest sort of convenience store is actually over the river. So I'm going to see if I can cut across the park. Otherwise, I guess I'm going to have to take the tram, which is not my favorite idea. Looks like there is a place to cross, but it is all the way up the north end of the park, which is not the worst thing in the world. It's a lot closer than the next nearest place, so hey, it's a nice walk. Alright, got the resupply in. They had almost everything I was looking for. Well, they had a lot of things that were almost what I was looking for. What the others were looking for also. They'll be in a couple of hours still, but at least, you know, I'll be ready. Right. Fridge is fully stocked. Oh, and don't forget.
So we'd arrived. We ordered pizza and took an easy night, getting some last-minute tinkering done to make sure that we were ready for Saturday. Even though we'd all brought different decks, it was still really cool to be working on them in the same room, getting live feedback from other players. I had my Blue Moon list ready for the Seagulls event, so I took the time to finalize my Flash deck for the teams on Sunday. But all of that seemed a long way off, so we took an early night to make sure that we were ready for the Friday Strixhaven Sealed.
Like you're not using struggling.
Huh? Ah, yeah, this is us.
Yeah.
Any good? Anything good?
Just finished deck reg at Sealed. It is not my favourite pool, but I've done a lot worse before, so I guess we'll see how it goes. So, round one, and I have already been paired up against one of my teammates, which does not feel great. Technically we can both top 16 with one loss, but it's not the best time to be taking it. I did wind up winning, looking forward to the next round at this point. I've found a corner where I can kind of film. That was a really interesting round. My opponent had like a sort of value aggro Jund deck in game one, but they stumbled a bit on mana, didn't manage to close it out. Then they hard pivoted into like a Jeskai sort of mid-range control deck. I burned my removal too early. I used a grapple to get a 2-for-1 off the Poisonous Apprentice, but I think I should have waited because then they played like the 5-drop that dual casts something and then the 3-drop that makes fractals. I just couldn't beat that. But game 3, I was really worried. I mulled to 5, but they got stuck on mana, didn't have much to play, and I was just able to, chain draw spell into draw spell, big creature into big creature, and get them down. And just as well because there was like 5 minutes left. I am 3-0. I don't know how this happened. The wall is much farther from me than I expected, but we're here now, I guess. That guy had a pretty good deck, like a rug. There's a lot of value piles I'm seeing at the top tables. The guy next to me was also black, green, and blue. Had all 3 Emerituses as well, and Ral, which is pretty obscene. I hope I don't have to play against him. But yeah, the deck feels really good. Got to cast Mind into Matter for X is 7, and then put my Archaic into play, which was pretty game winning. Opponent cast a practicum, but I was just like, well, I have every removal spell in the game in my hand, so I'm going to kill your board and then attack for lethal. Finally got my ass kicked. Game 1 was a bit rough. I had a like double swamp, 1/1 Death Toucher hand for my 7, with like every other card was like a 4-drop, and I didn't want to keep that. And then I mulliganed to a 6, which was 1 swamp and the Death Toucher, a whole bunch of other stuff. Still almost came back. Having a lot of removal definitely helps, but yeah, it just wasn't enough. And then game 2, they just had so much pressure. I was handling it okay, but they had all these flyers, and even though I got to cast Mind into Matter for 7, they got me down to 1 and then Sign in Blood me with the flyer, which was pretty cool, admittedly. What is it, practice offense? Absolutely nuts. Does like so much damage. And it just makes combat harder for the rest of the game because their whole board is bigger forever. So I managed to bluff out the like second cast, so I didn't die to it, but yeah. I'm still 3-1, so very, very live in a 7-round event, but it makes things harder, especially to ID, so we'll see how we go. I am now 3-2. I'm still technically live for top 8. Even top 16, you get 2 collector boosters, so it's still worth playing out. I am so hungry. My rounds keep finishing like too late to go get. There's no food close, really. There'll be a food truck tomorrow, apparently, but as it is, opponent was great. Had a really cool like Mardu deck. I was very close to turning the corner in both games, but they were just able to force enough damage through. They had a lot of flyers, and I only have the one thing with reach in the old growth dude and 1 flyer in Moseo. I don't think I have anything else that touches the air, which is rough. I cast Zamone's Experiment in game 2. I saw 4 removal spells and 1 land, which felt really awful, especially since it meant like every threat they played for the rest of the game. I'm like, well, my removal is on the bottom of my deck. But you know, I was still like, what? They were dead next turn, so I brought it pretty close with what I had, and yeah, they only had me by 1 life point in the end. So yeah, gonna keep pushing, and yeah, maybe if I go 3-3, I drop, I go get some food. It's all wins really. So I'm 3-3 now. Did not get there in the last round. I beat them in game 1, and then in games 2 and 3 both, I got stuck on not many lands, it's like 4 or 5, which sounds like plenty, but my deck was very slow, and especially in game 3, I didn't have 2 black sources, and that meant I couldn't cast 2 removal spells, and that meant I couldn't win the game. But, you know, it is what it is. Things happened. I think I played as well as I could have. I got to round 6 with solid but like uninspiring pool. I don't think I had any like massive bombs or anything, so you know what, I can be happy with that. I think I'm gonna look around to see if there's some food available, because I haven't eaten since like 8:30 and I am hungry. Just got back. Everyone else is finishing up the draft, so I'm going to make sure that my deck list is up to date and submit that, because it's 5 o'clock and they're due at 7.
Friday's event was over and we made our way back to the B&B. Despite a strong start, I'd managed to flip from 3-0 to 0-3, which meant that I didn't even get to drop out and draft Mystery Booster, which especially sucks since that's one of my favorite draft sets. Still, I guess we weren't really there to draft, and after getting our last few practice matches in, we hit the sack ready for day 2, the main event.
It is Saturday morning, the morning of the Highlander singles. I am excited, nervous. I think I'll do okay. Have some more time to get ready. No more changes for deck lists, of course, but it's going to be more about just making sure that, yeah, get some food up us. And the important thing is to have fun and win. Winning also important, but you know, having fun is nice too. Alright, we're by a quite a major road, so I hope the audio is usable. We just had a great breakfast, but I realised that I actually have some cards for someone who will need them to play today, so I am going to the event a bit ahead of my mates to make sure that, you know, everyone actually gets to bring the deck that they registered on the assumption that I was actually going to rock up. The main hall's way too noisy, so I'm doing this out here. It was round 1 against junglers. I definitely had some warming up issues. In game 1, had 2 opportunities to kill Inti in beginning of combat, and I just passed through both times. Game 2 as well, I missed my opportunity to cast Lose Focus, and I wound up having to submerge, still Inti. I don't know why it's Inti for some reason, but I wound up having to submerge it. Did it in beginning of combat this time at the very least. Got to counter a Deathrite Shaman. And then game 2 I managed to take over, come back with like Fury and Quantum Riddler and all that. There's more of what I'm trying to do. Game 3 was kind of brutal because they kept a hand with no black source. And I had Archmage's Charm in my 7 and they had Carpet. So even though they were able to get 1 mana out of it, I was able to steal the Carpet. They stopped casting spells, and I just, yeah, again, chained Fury into something else huge, and or Murktide Regent, and closed it out there from there. Well, that was an unequivocal stomp. It was a really sweet deck, this like white-black like Rector deck. So they had Academy and Arena Rector, and they were doing stuff like Overwhelming Splendor and Demon of Fate's design, which lets you like cast an enchantment by paying life. So they would like, you know, they can get that off Academy Rector to cast an enchantment that's in their hand. Unfortunately, this deck really sucks against the deck that is all counter spells. Even when they were able to like Thoughtseize, Cabal Therapy, Grief me, I was just like, cool, there's more where that came from. Game 1 was really brutal. They kept a 1-lander. Hand attacked me a couple of times. I drew a lot of removal, but I did manage to protect my Archmage's Charm with Brainstorm, and then when they finally went for it, their entire hand was fast mana. So I'm just sitting there while they go, okay, you know, Mox Diamond, Chrome Mox, Mox Opal, Grim Monolith, LED, Yawgmoth's Will sacking the LED, and I just go, okay, I'll counter that, and the game ends when that happens. So, and game 2 was not much better for them, unfortunately. Apparently it's not typically that bad, but it is very bad still. The Moon's also really good against them. They had like Lake of the Dead and stuff, so feeling pretty good. 2-0. Easily my best first 2 rounds at any major event, so very happy with how it's going so far. So I am 3-0 going into the lunch break. I expect I will also be 3-0 coming out of the lunch break. I guess I could get a match loss or a match win. You never know. I feel really good about my deck. Going from a lot of the times like building my own deck, a lot of brain power just went into how do I play this matchup? How do I win the games that I'm about to play? And that was really hard. And playing a deck that A, I already know is good, and B, I can sit down across from, last round was against bots. A deck that I have never properly played against before, and I can just look at it and be like, this matchup is probably pretty good if I resolve Blood Moon, and then I resolve Blood Moon, and then the game ends because I have Chase the Mind Sculptor in play. It's just so much easier, which feels really, really nice. Hopefully we can keep this going. Okay, so lost that one to Eldrazi, which I wasn't expecting to see. It is the worst performing big mana deck in the top like 30 most played, but I mean, this bloke's clearly doing very well with it. He's 4-0. It's a good matchup for me, I think, but he's like Sire of 7 Deaths in game 2 when I was out of counter spells, and that card is impossible to beat, really, when I don't have enough life to pay the ward. I need to have basically exactly Consign, because I can counter the trigger. And then in game 3, he just had Cavern of Souls in his hand, and so I had a grip full of counter spells, and they didn't do anything. So it feels a bit rough, but still very live for top 8, so we'll see how we keep going. Very, very quick one, because I just played the mirror. We had a 35-minute game 1 and drew after I took game 2 in turns. So 3-1-1 now. So I just lost to Eldrazi again, which has been both my losses for today, which is a bit weird because both my opponents think that it's a really good matchup for me, but at the end of the day, it just felt like I didn't draw anything relevant, which is a bit unfortunate, but whatever you're going to do, right? I'm still live for prizing. I'm almost certainly dead for top 8, but it's only 2 more rounds to go, so we can play it out, right? And that is round 7, lost in 2 games to Grixis. Kaito is kind of unbeatable. Just the fact that he can't be countered, he has hexproof when he's a creature, and then they had counter spells every time I went for a red blast. Sucks, but what are you going to do? And that puts me out of prize contention, so my phone is on 1%. I'm basically dead in both regards. Then I think when everyone else is done with their rounds, probably just head home, maybe get some food on the way.
Strangely enough, the second verse went about the same as the first. Sure, I snuck in an extra match win with a draw in round 5, but the effect is about the same. Climb ups 3-0, don't win a match for the rest of the day. You might have noticed I had less to say in those later clips, and while that's a little bit because my phone was dying, it's also a lot bit because I was getting pretty tilted. Long tournaments are really, really draining, and it was absolutely getting to me. I especially want to talk about, though, is the second match I played against Eldrazi. I think that can actually be quite instructive. See, Eldrazi as a deck relies a lot on its fancy lands to hit its big haymakers ahead of curve, and I have a plan to stop that. I can stick moon effects, which disable those abilities and really stop them from casting big spells until they get to 7 lands, which ideally by which point I'm prepared with a bunch of counter spells to trade up on mana with these overcosted threats. Now, after sideboard, they also get to bring in Carpet of Flowers, which is another powerful mana engine, for which my only answer is basically Archmage's Charm. Now, in game 2, they actually had Carpet, and I had Archmage's Charm and Blood Moon. I was actually able to stick my Moon and steal their Carpet, and I think that lost me the game. See, Blood Moon and Archmage's Charm are both 3 mana, which means that even though I was able to get these effects down, that basically gave them 2 really important turns to play whatever they wanted. I fell way too far behind on tempo, and I wasn't able to retake control of the game. Instead, if I can play more like a traditional control deck, just using the Archmage's Charm as a counterspell, ignoring their lands, I think I have a much better shot at winning that game. Do I think I definitely win that game? Probably not. But I think I definitely could have played differently. It was just very counterintuitive, because I have these cards in my deck to do a thing, and doing that thing was actually not the best option in that scenario. And it definitely led me to getting quite tilted in the moment, whereas stepping back, I could realize that there was a better way for me to play. Did that frustration make a difference in my last match? No, Kaito's just a dumb card. No time to dwell on it though, because Teams is just around the corner.
You didn't let me finish earlier, because I died. Well, my phone died. It was an interesting day yesterday. I think I could have done better, obviously. On the whole, though, I could have done a lot worse. I wound up dropping after round 7 because I was very tired and a little bit tilted. Decided to come home. But, you know, got some pizza, got some Tim Tams, and, yeah, feeling a lot better this morning. It's time for Teams, which is going to be a much lower stakes, I think much more vibes, much more intangible vibes. I can't stop thinking about that since I watched Henry play against a guy who had that, there's this playtest card in Mystery Booster called Intangible Vibes. And just every time now that I think about vibes, I'm just like, ah yes, intangible vibes. Anyway, Teams are going to be vibes, and I'm looking forward to it. And I'm playing Flash, which is a completely unserious deck, so I'm just hoping that the meta is a lot like what we saw yesterday. Lots of, you know, aggro, big mana, decks that beat aggro, and not much blue is going to be the key for me, I think. Yeah, fingers crossed. So we're off to a flying start. We have already lost after round 1. I was up against lands, which is a deck that usually can't really interact with flash, but they managed to keep me barely off the win in both games 1 and 3. Because specifically I drew tap lands instead of untapped lands. And if I had drawn untapped lands both games, I have exactly enough mana to kill. But because I draw tap lands, I can't play them because they will simply strip them, and then I lose the game, which feels rough. But I did, in game 2, get the turn 1 kill on the play, which felt ridiculous, and it is why I'm playing the deck. And then sadly, my middle seat also lost because Grixis things, I guess. We kind of put him in the hot seat to play a whole bunch of Grixis mirrors, which is a bit brutal, but yeah, he signed up for it. I will see you after round 2. So I lost that round as well. It was into Grixis, which is a bit rough. I did take game 2 again. I played around their fetches very carefully. So Limdal's Vault in my end step in response to their fetch, and then again in my end step in response to their Brainstorm, Orum's Chant them, and then Summoner's Pact Flash. Game 3 was really close. I had Summoner's Pact Flash, Limdal's Vault, Shred Memory, Show and Tell in my hand, so I went for the Limdal's Vault to get a silence effect on their turn. They showed their hand to their teammate and asked basically if they should counter it, which to me said they probably don't have another counter spell. They did counter the Limdal's Vault, so on my turn I went for the kill, but they had the Consign on the Hulk trigger, so I lost to the Pact, which felt a bit rough. Right at this moment, we're basically in turns. Alex won game 1 and is about to start game 2, and Luca, I think, is probably going to win game 3, so fingers crossed that we actually take a round win at the very least, and then see where we go from there. So I am now 0 for 3. I was up against Thoracle, which is a deck that has all of the cards that Grixis has that beats me, except Force of Will, because they had a Grixis player who was playing the Force of Will, and I just didn't quite have it. I had a turn 2 kill in game 2, but they had a turn 1 Thoughtseize, and the thing about 1 is that it's smaller than 2 by a pretty substantial margin. So in terms of speed, unfortunately I lost that race. I had an interesting play where they went for another hand attack spell later, and I responded with Auroral Procession, because I used Limdal's Vault to set up Auroral Procession, Orum's Chant, some extra mana, because I already had the Protean Hulk, and they cast Inquisition. I Procession targeting Flooded Strand, and the plan was to fetch Mystic Sanctuary and put Flash back on top, but they countered the Procession just to make sure, which was fair enough. So could not put it together, but we'll see how the boys are doing. So what I'm finding is that I am definitely not the reason that there are draws. I won that in a very, very quick 2-0 against Red-White Humans. It was a really cool and interesting looking deck that had absolutely no way to interact with a flash kill. They did get me to some pretty low life totals, but they just did not have the pressure. They did get a Clarion Conqueror down at one point, just had the removal to kill it, untap and go for the flash kill. So, and now I think both of my teammates are in game 3, so I'm going to go and see how that finishes up. So it's the end of round 5. I am hydrating. Looks like Luca managed to barely lose game 1 with 20 minutes on the clock into walks, so that was kind of intense. I was against Thoracle. It was a much longer and more interesting game than my previous games against Thoracle. Both of them involved Voice of Victory attacking for quite a lot of damage. In game 1 I was able to pierce the pack with Thoracle and keep attacking. Eventually they were able to step through the Thoracle with Waterlog Teachings in hand. On that turn, I was able to get Flash and Worldspine Worm because Sam was in my graveyard after a Surveil land, but they had enough mana off of Brainstorm finding Carpet of Flowers, or some draw effect found Carpet of Flowers for them. So they were able to go Carpet of Flowers, add a bajillion mana, Waterlog Teachings Thoracle. So that was intense. Game 2, I was again attacking with Voice of Victory. Again, messing with the combo stuff. They messed with my combo, I messed with their combo. I had silence, and the plan was to attack, silence them, and attack for lethal. They Inquisitioned my first silence. I draw Spellseeker. I Spellseeker for Orm's Chant. Attack. Orm's Chant in their upkeep. They cast Opposition Agent. They're at 2 life. They flash an Opposition Agent. They block my Spellseeker on the next turn so that they go to 1. I have Thunder Trap is my other creature at this point. They killed the Voice a couple turns ago. And then they untap. They have the combo and I die. So it felt pretty rough, but at the same time, it was way less rough than the other loss to Thoracle, even though it was just as many games. So very interesting. Hopefully the boys can pull it out, but I'm not holding out my breath at this point. So I won my last round very quickly against a green-black lands deck, which cannot interact with me. I killed them on turn 2 in game 1. After they played a tap land, I just went and stepped Mystical, untap, flash, kill you. And then game 2, they hand attacked me a couple of times, which meant that I couldn't assemble a combo. I had Show and Tell and Demonic Tutor in my hand originally. The first hand attack took Demonic Tutor. Then I drew Summoner's Pact. The second hand attack took that. But because they didn't have anything else going on, I was able to draw into then Limdor's Vault, which found me Worldspine Worm, which I could Show and Tell into play, and then win the game. They were very close to being able to slam Ashiok, which would have stopped me from casting the other tutors, but I still would have got away with the Limdor's Vault. So I think on balance, I'm probably still winning that game, but it definitely does make it more complicated. Luca lost to Eldrazi, which is a rough one for Grixis, and now we're just waiting on table 3, which is probably going to be a draw. I came out here just as time was called. It's our Blue Moon player into Prowess. So the Prowess player did not have anything in play when I left on turn 0. And hopefully, well, that'd put us at 1-3-2. Even at best, we're 2-3-1. So we're not making top 8. But the other 3 are 5-1 after that round. So they have a very good chance of drawing into top 4. Very excited for them, but that does mean I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to be doing for the next couple of hours. So we'll see how that goes. Anyway, and we dropped. Alex and I were both pretty exhausted at this point. It has been a long day. Teams matches almost always go to time because there's 3 times as many people to take forever, and also you're giving each other advice and this and that. So lots of matches went to time, but yeah, all told, like it was definitely not one that I was trying super serious to win. Obviously, yeah, doing my best, but like I'm playing Flash. I'm playing Flash in a format that has Force of Will, and you kind of just expect to lose. But my mates are on coverage now, so I'm just going to go sit in the foyer and listen to that.
Turn,
He's been waiting for this. He's been waiting.
Here we go.
One
Braden
time
has
for
the
the
Arad
bolt.
Mesa.
One time for the bolt.
Badlands, not quite. Charlie Myers takes out game number 2.
So despite my personal less than impressive finish, it was so cool to be in the room while the friends that I'd come so far with took, frankly, a spectacular win and in on coverage nonetheless. What's crazy is how much this match wound up deciding. Not only did they win and go into first place, that boosted the Breakers of the only team that beat them into 4th place, kicking out Nathan Smale, who came 9th in the singles event, and resulted in them then getting knocked out by the only team that had beat them all day. That was honestly pretty unfortunate, but it was so cool to see people I care about doing so well with decks that other people are still taking their time to pick up. Bluetron has been taking off, which is awesome, but Amber Ascendancy and Madness are both really powerful decks that I think more people should be trying. So it's Monday morning and everyone else has just left. They all got
early flights, and I got a very late flight because I'm not very sensible, but it was cheaper. And now I've got about 12 hours to kill before my flight, so let's go enjoy Melbourne.
I have been editing this video for 2 weeks, and I am about to start filming. This video left me with a really important question. Do I even enjoy tournament magic? It's important to make a distinction between competitive gaming and tournament gaming. The most common form of competitive play is still fundamentally casual. You're meeting up with your buddies to jam cards. But tournament magic requires a huge investment of money, of time, and of energy. It's not for everyone, even people who normally enjoy competitive games. If you'd asked me on the weekend, I'd have told you it's not for me. Why would I want to spend hundreds or thousands of dollars on a deck, on plane tickets, accommodation, just to burn my precious time off, sleeping on a couch, eating on a timer, and focusing until my eyes cross, just to come away without being rewarded at all? But for the opportunity to be part of a community, to meet all kinds of cool people, to see decks I've never seen, and spend a whole long weekend with great mates, I'd spend anything in the world.